I didn't care about buying a $40,000 car, but I was thinking about $1,000 car transport.
Rookie mistake, but we live and learn, and hopefully others can avoid the mistakes that we made.
It has been made with a lot of informed decisions, and I think I have come out ahead. To set context, I have bought three more cars since buying the Mustang, which was a mistake.
My biggest surprise when I first came to the US, like it wasn't the fast paced English, it wasn't even the Mercedes stopping for me to let me cross. It was the sheer size of parking lots. Like IKEA was ginormous, but the parking lot was bigger. Like it was a crazy experience.
So today we are going to talk about car buying without being taken for a ride at a car dealership.
Let's get to it. Welcome to Green Mango Finance, a personal finance podcast for immigrants by immigrants. We are your co-hosts, Shreya and Kunal. And before we get into things, I think we need to come clean and tell you guys about the cars we own. So, Kunal, why don't you start?
The first car I bought, I still have it. It's a Ford Mustang. I bought it in 2016. So it's been 10 years now. It runs really well still. So that is not the mistake, but the mistake is when I bought it and how I bought it. So I joined full time in May 2016, and July 2016, I bought the car. So like less than 2 months into my job, I went and purchased this car. My original plan was to buy it before my graduation and arrive at the venue for the walk in the car. I even took the test ride and everything. I was pretty close to signing, and then I backed off because I was having to move. I didn't care about buying a $40,000 car, but I was thinking about $1,000 car transport. So that was the only reason I didn't pull the trigger. But then I pulled the trigger like 2 months later. What about you? What car do you own? And was that a mistake?
I own the car of quiet millionaires, the Toyota Corolla.
Okay, so now we know you are a millionaire.
Well, I only aspire to be one. So I am making all the right moves in that direction by buying a Toyota Corolla first. So as you can see, I have made no mistakes. I also have paid off the car in 2 years. So yay to me. And yeah, it's a very boring car, but it takes me from point A to point B, and I couldn't be happier.
So did you need a car when you bought it, or was it just a milestone decision that you made?
I actually survived 5 years in the US without a car. So I only ended up buying a car when I moved to the suburbs in Seattle for my job. And I realized there is literally just one bus that takes me to downtown. And the bus schedule was pretty difficult to follow. I couldn't go out on weekends because basically I had to pay either $60 in Uber or I had to wait for a bus that was every 1 hour or so. So, yes, I would say it was a purchase made out of necessity more than need. I think that is a good first question to have when you are considering buying a car. Like, do you even need a car? For example, I have lived in Boston, and the public transportation there is decent enough where you don't really need a car, especially for commuting to work if you are living in the city. Now, there are other cities too where you don't necessarily need a car, and owning a car becomes more of a liability because of the insane parking costs that you might have to pay. New York and San Francisco come to mind in that sense. I mean, it's one of the reasons we don't live in the city actually, because we had to pay $300 extra for parking just one car. So yeah, if you are in the middle of the city and the city has decent public transportation options, you might be able to get by just by renting cars once in a while when you want to go for a long weekend trip. Personally, I have used zip cars for short trips, or I rent through Hertz, Enterprise, National, and the cost actually comes out to be much lower than a monthly car payment coupled with insurance and everything.
And a lot of times, anyways, you have to rent a car when you're traveling because you might be taking a flight there and then you cannot drive everywhere. US is a huge country. I have personally always lived in the suburbs, so a car was a necessity for me. But the car that I chose did not fulfill the necessities because it had two seats and not enough trunk space to move furniture. So definitely, if you do decide to buy a car, consider the needs more than wants. In my case, I prioritized my wants, and that was my mistake.
So, just so the listeners out here can avoid making mistakes like you did, why don't we start off with some of the checklists that we think are important when you go to buy a car?
But before we get into the checklist, please leave a comment. Let us know if you've made a mistake. Clearly, Shreya does not make mistakes, but I do. So I would like some company. So, speaking of the checklist, so far we've looked at our location and looked at the public transport available in the city and decided that a car is a necessity. It's not a want. And then the second thing we looked at is our needs. Do we need an SUV? Do we need more trunk space, or do we care about 4 or 5 seats? Or do we care about the mileage? Whatever the criteria is, we've looked at that and decided the category of the car. So for this case study, let's say I arrive to the conclusion that I need an SUV because I care about a bigger trunk space, given all the Costco hauls that I have to do, or pick up family visiting me from India and they bring like 4 or 5 bags. So I need that trunk space. What's the next item in the checklist?
So, the next item on the checklist is the budget. Budget is something I advise everybody to go through before they are buying any big item. A car, of course, is a big cost. And unless you are paying for the car upfront, you will have monthly payments. And that is a fixed payment that you will be doing every month along with your rent or mortgage. So, my advice would be to not take out a car loan that added with your rent is more than 50% of your take home salary.
How should I calculate the 50%?
I usually just consider the base salary, all the equity and bonus. Those are one time things. In my case, I just directly put them away for investments or towards my emergency fund.
I guess another mistake I made 10 years back was to use 50% of my sign on bonus towards down payment of the car instead of paying off my student loan.
Rookie mistake, but we live and learn, and hopefully others can avoid the mistakes that we made. The other thing I actually wanted to mention is car insurance. In the US, car insurance is absolutely essential, and it is actually illegal to not have car insurance in most states. If you are a new immigrant who does not have a long history of driving in the US, then very likely your first insurance payments are going to shock you. I remember I got my car after 2 years of having a driver's license in the US. And even then, my first payment for a basic car like Toyota Corolla was close to $200 per month in the Seattle area. So it varies according to location, but it's just something to keep in mind as a recurring cost for your car alongside car maintenance costs that you might end up having.
Yeah, I guess this is one place that I did not make a mistake. I got a driver's license early on, even before I bought the car. So I built some driving history about 2 years, similar to what you mentioned. Yes, the insurance was still high, but I don't know how much of it was driving record versus type of car. Okay, so now I know the city I live in and it requires a car. I know the type of car. I also know my budget, and I have checked my insurance to make sure that it is allocated towards my budget and I'm not oversubscribing. Now comes the fun part. You start looking at cars based on your budget, and you are thrown with three different options. One is to buy cash, you can finance the car, and then you have third option, which is lease. We will dive into each of them and how you can maximize each category. Just like we said in the intro, the car dealerships are there to take you for a ride. You want to be on the smart side of it and prevent that as much as possible. So Shreya, I know you mentioned you bought a Toyota Corolla. It was a new car. Did you finance it, lease it, or pay hard cash since you are a millionaire?
I financed it, but I also don't like being in debt, so I have paid off the car in 2 years, even though I took out a loan for 5 years, I believe. So, just to set some context, I started looking at cars in the middle of 2023 when the used car market was jacked up probably to the peak. So, Even though I wanted to buy a secondhand car, I ended up buying a new car because the price difference between the two were so minimal that it did not make sense for me to buy a 5 years older car model for $2,000 less. The other thing I actually realized is that the MSRP for cars that are more in demand can change depending on the dealership you are buying at. So, for example, at the time I was living in Kirkland, and the Toyota of Kirkland cited me a much higher price over the manufacturing price as opposed to Toyota of Puyallup, where I ended up buying my car, which was just stating me the MSRP. So, I actually drove like some 70 miles to get my new car from that dealership because the price was lower. The other tip I have is, of course, regarding credit cards. So I utilize my big car down payment to meet a sign up bonus that I probably would not have met otherwise. So I got a lot of points for that. And sadly, my dealership only allowed up to $5,000 in payment, but it was still good enough for me. So, what did you do, Kunal? Did you finance, did you lease, or did you just buy with your new sign on bonus?
Sadly, the sign-on bonus did not cover the entire purchase, so I just did a 10% down payment. 90% of it was financed. I did get a pretty good rate. It was under 2%. So another mistake that I did not make, fortunately for me, that when I came to the US within the first 15 days, I got my first credit card and started building my credit score. We talk about that in detail in episode 2, Points and Miles. So if you want to hear the entire story, check that episode out. But because of building the credit as a student for 2 years, I was able to get this low rate. This was probably one of the best rates at that time. This was back in 2016. Of course, the rates have increased quite a bit since then. So in your budget, always account for the interest as well and not just the purchase price.
I want to add here that one of the big reasons that I paid off my debt was because it was around 5.75%, which was on the higher end, despite me having a higher than 780 credit score. It's just the market and it varies a lot. So if you have a sub 2 rate like Kunal, then you can wait on paying off your loan because your money is better invested elsewhere. But if it's on the higher end, it might make sense to just get it all done with.
Since then, I have bought a few more cars. So now we have two in the household. And the second car that I bought is not a mistake. It has been made with a lot of informed decisions. And I think I have come out ahead. To set context, I have bought three more cars since buying the Mustang, which was a mistake. I've bought a Chevrolet Bolt. I have bought Volkswagen ID4, and currently we have Kia Sportage or Sportage. I'm not sure how we say it. People say it both ways. I use it interchangeably. But the first two of these three, the Chevrolet Bolt and the Volkswagen ID4, were a lease. Bolt was for 3 years, ID4 was for 2 years, and Kia is a finance. This financing is even better than the Mustang. I got it at 0%, 0%, 4 years. So I did not pay a single dollar and I was able to bring the car home. The first payment was after 45 days of driving the car.
I know there for a lot of new cars, there are offers like that. So one of my friend was also able to get a 0% interest for his Mazda. So it's definitely worth checking out if you have those offers and if that car fits into your budget. Honestly, my whole premise of getting a car was just to get to work and the occasional long weekend drive. So I did not care if the car had a great music system or the car had good acceleration. Spoiler, it does not. So yeah, I am still pretty happy because it gets me from point A to point B. But I know a lot of people care for a lot other factors. So are you in one of those camps, Kunal?
I used to be, as you can see from the pattern. I started with a specific car, specific color, specific set of features. I drove 100 miles to get that specific car. Now, I still would drive 100 miles to get a car, but it is for a specific deal and not a specific car. For the Kia, we did drive about 60 miles to a nearby town, but it was not because I was looking for a specific car and a specific color. I was looking for a specific deal, and the dealer that agreed to that deal is the one that I went with. So that's how my mindset has shifted.
That's nice that you're finally in the finance camp, but I am actually very curious about leasing because it's not something that I have personally experienced, but I have been to car dealerships where they told me that the guy who was selling me the car changes his car every 3 years, and he is a big proponent of leasing cars. So, is that what your experience has been?
Yeah. For example, the Chevrolet Bolt, my monthly payment was on that was $150. It was cheaper than my insurance, to be honest. And I had that car for 3 years. There are a couple of things to consider when leasing. If you are focused on the payment, then of course you have to maybe be flexible on the car, which I was. I was okay with a full electric car. I was okay with a smaller car as well, which Chevrolet Bolt is. I was focused on the lowest payment possible. And the way this particular deal worked is there were federal credits for EV, there were state credits for EV. At that time, Costco also had a deal going on. Dealers had a particular deal, and then this was very specific to this car. And if we did a one pay, which means you pay all the payments upfront. In this case, it was a 36-month lease. So 150 into 36. I had to make that payment upfront. It's called one pay. If we did all that, stacked all these credits, then the effective payment was 150 a month. So I maximized this, same as what Shreya mentioned, by using credit cards because they were not able to go down on the payments any further. At that point, I brought up the conversation about paying with a credit card. So I negotiated 7,500 with the dealer, paid that between two credit cards, and got that cash back as well.
Okay, that sounds like a sweet deal. So, if somebody wants to lease a car, what are the different things they should be considering, provided they have a certain flexibility regarding the car they want to lease and but they are set on, say, budget?
Yeah. So there are three terms I would consider. One is the mileage, which means each year you are allocated some thousand miles, like 7,500 or 10,000, 12,000, 15,000. So look at your needs. Do you really need 15,000 miles a year, or are you okay with 7,500 miles? Because that is going to also determine your monthly payment when you are leasing a car. Next is the residual value. Residual value is determined by the manufacturer. It is the value of your car at the end of the lease. So let's say the car that you want to buy is a $40,000 car and it's leased for 3 years. At the end of the lease, the manufacturer may consider that this car will be worth 28,000. So that value is already predetermined when you are leasing and signing the document, it will already be mentioned. So at the end of 3 years, if you really like that car and you think you want to keep it, that's the amount you're going to have to pay, in addition to what you've already paid so far on a monthly basis. Sometimes you may be able to come out ahead. Even if you really wanted to buy that car, you may be able to lease that car and make monthly payments on it and eventually still buy it by paying the residual value. In some cases, residual may be just so high that it doesn't make sense. Second example that I can give is the second car that I leased, which is the Volkswagen ID4. At that time, my needs had changed slightly because I needed a bigger car with some more trunk space. So I shortlisted an SUV as my category, and then I needed more miles. Previously, I had 7,500 miles a year over 3 years. It worked then, but now I needed more. So I was looking for at least 10,000 miles a year. And this is where I want to introduce the third term, which is the money factor, or MF in short. That is the interest. There is a base APR or money factor that is set by bank that might be financing this, but dealers add more on top of it. And that's where you have to understand or find out what is the base money factor that is set by the bank that the dealer cannot change, and what is the overcharge on top of it set by the dealer. And that's the number that you want to negotiate, because that is the number that is going to determine your payment each month. So in my case, I was able to negotiate the money factor and bring the entire payment down for Volkswagen ID4 to $300 a month for 2 years. So that's where another flexibility in leasing is important, that you may find the car that you need, but you may not find the duration that you need it for. Sometimes you may have to get it for 1 or 2 years. Sometimes you can go up to 4 years and still get the same payment. So look up leasehacker.com. That's a resource that I have used. There are other resources available online as well. A lot of these have paid calculators. So when you are in the process of buying a car or leasing a car, get that monthly subscription. Leasehacker is currently $15 a month. Then you get access to money factor and residual values for all makes and models. So once you decide that you want a Volkswagen ID4, for example, look up on that paid tool what the money factor should be at the lowest. And based on your needs and the budget, you can determine what terms are favorable for you, and then cast a wide net. Reach out to multiple dealers and give them your exact number. I typically tell them that I am not wanting to negotiate. Go to the dealer website, find the car that you like, and give them the stock number saying these are the three cars I like on your lot, and these are the terms that I am looking for. Can you match it? If they agree, then you go pick up the car. There is no need to go to the dealer before that. And you can also sign the paper at your home. So that's how my entire mindset and experience has changed from the first time I bought the car 10 years back. I wanted to go into the dealership, test ride 10 different models of Mustang and figure out the exact features that I wanted, to not even wanting to step a foot in the dealership before I have signed the papers and I'm only going to pick up the car.
Fair enough. I think I myself learned a lot of things in this episode because I was completely unfamiliar with leasing before this, but it's something we actually might consider for our next car.
Yeah, so that's my experience with buying cars new as either financing or leasing. Shreya, I believe you have some experience with secondhand or used cars as well. Do you want to share what car do you have and how you went about?
Sure. So for my partner, we actually bought a secondhand car, a 2021 Volkswagen Jetta. So the first step for that process was we cast our net wide. We were sort of sure that we wanted a sedan, mainly because of our budget. And we looked at a bunch of different websites, I believe Carvana, Kelly's Blue Book, and we also even looked at Facebook Marketplace actually to see if we had any good offers there. For secondhand market, there are a lot of scammers out there, and it's very difficult to tell unless you're an expert in dealing with cars whether the car actually had a good track record or not. So one of the most reliable ways I have found is just running the VIN number through Carfax and getting a report of any reported accidents or not. So that was step one. We then actually went to a local Volkswagen dealership in Maryland and very casually, because it was nearby, and we were like, okay, what are the car options that you have? We are roughly looking at this budget and we don't want cars more than 5 years old. So they showed us a bunch of different options, and I think we ended up with the Jetta. And with secondhand cars, I think there is more wiggle room to negotiate. So for us, what happened is that they had mistakenly written that car's year as 2022 on Carfax or Carvana. And since we pointed out that this is a 2021, they were actually willing to lower the car price by almost $2,000. So I would say we got a pretty good deal on that car given everything was working and it was also within the warranty period. So if anything went wrong, we could go back to the dealership and ask them to replace the car parts. One example there was that my partner saw that the car battery was causing some problems. So he actually went in within 30 days and they replaced the entire battery. The other thing we did immediately after buying the car was take it to an independent mechanic and do a 42-point inspection. This is especially useful if you are somebody who is not very good with cars. So yeah, I would say secondhand, it's a big market. There are lots of places to look into. Almost every dealership will have secondhand cars that they are trying to sell. So it's worth exploring your options. But since it is such a big marketplace, I think it's good to go in selecting your category of car that you want and fixing on your budget. Beyond that, I think there is some wiggle room to negotiate.
Did you go to a local used car dealer, or was it a large dealer with a certified pre-owned lot, or was it a tech company like Carvana that happens to be selling cars?
So I have explored the first two. I have also explored the third, but I've not bought from Carvana. The first one, I have went to a local dealership when I was trying to buy my car and I rented a different car, drove all the way out like 2 towns down to a different dealership. It was a 2008 Lexus and it had one of the windows broken. So it was a terrible experience and it was not certified pre-owned, which I learned was a term that you should look out for later on. So the next time we actually went to a local Volkswagen dealership for my partner, and it was a certified pre-owned.
Yeah, certified pre-owned definitely is a good bargain because you sometimes get a similar warranty, but you're not paying the new car prices. So
Yeah. The other thing I have experience with is selling that secondhand car. And in that case, I would actually say that do not go to the dealership because they are going to undercut you. So if you can actually find somebody willing to buy the car directly off you, it is a little bit of effort going to the DMV and getting all the paperwork done. But you might be getting a much better price than the dealership is willing to give you.
for the certified pre-owned or CPO, but you're still being upcharged by the dealer for like wear and tear package and
Yes, I think they are going to do it regardless of what car you're buying, new or secondhand. But thankfully, I read Reddit and I know not to fall for them. So, yeah, we did not opt for those in either of our cars, I believe. If you like this episode, drop a comment and subscribe to our channel, Green Mango Finance. We are by the same name across all platforms, and we'll be back next week with another episode. See you then.